Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of the Lycan DM's Workshop. Um, I'm DM Michael. I'm also known as the Lycan DM on YouTube and on Twitch. And I want to invite you to an episode where we're moving on from the uh, the terrain that we've been building. Now we're still going to be on the same theme. We're still doing the beach tropical beach type of thing. But yeah, let's go ahead and first, before we jump into that, we're gonna go and we're gonna talk about different things that I've learned going through making this beach terrain. So I'm gonna start a slideshow of what we've done and the finished product. All right. So here we have a few pictures we're going through here. So this is the end all be all of the um, the tropical beach terrain bases. Um, we have the nice lagoon colored water right here. This is a picture of the river, the tropical river. It's a little different color. That's the one we colored with. Actually, I said last time it was glacier, but it's actually monsoon is the color of ink that I used. And you see here the sides and how nice and clear it is. Some spots are a little murky, but maybe just sand, rose up in those parts. This is the backside of the river. I love how the plants look. It looks alive. It looks real. Here they are side by side. A nearly seamless transition between them. Sure, some of the dunes aren't the same size, but dunes were kind of I'll be honest, an afterthought. Were I to have done this again, I probably would have probably prepped a full table, not made it quite so modular, um, but made it in a way that um, six pieces could be side by side. Rather, three pieces on one side, three pieces on the other, um, where they would mesh together a little bit better and be a whole table project. Now that was kind of the end thought, but I also wanted it to be modular, where if I was going to a convention or a game store, where I wouldn't have to have the whole table set up, but I could slap down one of these to represent where I need to be. So I could bring one or two, um, one of these in an inland model. We're going to be doing an inland model probably towards the end of this series. But yeah, no, I'm really happy with how these came out. Um, if anyone has any comments or critiques as to what they think I could have done differently, by all means, put it in the comments below. I would appreciate that. Um, but yeah, no, this really makes me happy. I love the transition between the river and the ocean part. I love the waves. I love the foam on the beach. I love how clear the epoxy is with the inks and how you can still see the plants and the terrain and the rocks underneath, despite the color. It looks vibrant. No, it. I feel like I'm in a tropical area. I feel like I'm at the beach. Um, so that just sort of makes me very very warm and happy. It's like I have a little bit of beach time at my own house when I'm playing D&D. Everyone loves a good um, trip to the beach, even your D&D characters, right? There's always that typical the beach trip where yeah, everyone's like taking a holiday, but nope, everything's gonna go wrong at the beach, something like that. But mainly, my premise behind this is arriving on a tropical island for some sort during some sort of a sailing adventure, and you know, Pirates of the Caribbean style. Um, you know, different different things can happen on the beach. It could be, this could be where your characters set up camp because their ship was wrecked. This could be, um, this could be the landing to a new land. Anything could happen at the could very well focused around a beachfront session or two. So yeah, so like I said, I'm happy with these. I love the sandbar on this picture. I like how the ripple effect in the river came out different than the waves in the ocean. Um, I love this. I love seeing the ocean floor like this. It's so vibrant with the plants. Um, I'm just very happy. Like really, what it comes down to. So anyway, moving on. Moving on. We are going to start a new endeavor here. So we are going to make scatter terrain next. So something like this is our goal. Now, I haven't painted the bottom on this yet because that's part of what we're going to do. But so basically we have our model tree. We have a 1-inch washer. So it's got a nice weight. It'll set up and won't topple over very easily. And that washer is attached to the tree and by hot glue and covered in hot glue to give it a sort of let's see if I can get a good one there to give it a texture. And that texture is we're going to put on the terrain, and I'm going to make a few of these with sort of a beachy like a beach base, and I'm going to make some with a more inland base. Now, I have a bunch of these. So I got this pack. It's like a pack of 48 different size trees. Some are small, some are tall. They're different types of trees. I forget the names of all of them. I know there's donkey palms and coconut palms and all that. King palms. But here's 2 of the different types of trees in there. They're different sizes and they're different kinds of palm trees. So I liked that aspect. There's 48 of them. And now I got this other type of tree, which I got from Michael's. So this is a taller tree. This is more of like that king palm style. And these are nice. They come in a few different sizes. But I like these a lot. The thing I like about these other ones is this bottom. Now this bottom has a little pokey spot. These are meant for like model trains. These are obviously for models as well, but they have these flat bases. So that'll be good and easy to stick to the washers. But these guys, I got them originally because I thought of another use for them. And I'm going to use them, I'm going to save some of these when I do my inland scenes. Because my inland scenes are going to be meant to be jungle, tropical island type scenes. So these are going to be dedicated in there. And instead of having bases for these, some of these are going to be just stabbed right into the foam and glued there. Now, I haven't decided if I'm going to glue completely or not. I might just stab them in and leave them there for the scene and then take them out for storage and for travel. And that way I can kind of mix and match which one goes where. But I like that idea of being able to just stab them in and leave them there. So I'm going to keep that idea open. And I'm going to put probably about 10 of these aside for that. But the rest, we're going to split between sand and inland bases. I'll probably do, and like I said, it'll be a mixture of both of them for the sand and inland beaches. So we're going to get started. Oh, and what else are we going to do? We're going to go over our tools. So we're going to make more than just tree scatter in this terrain, or in this series. Now, I have this whole kit that I bought. Now, this is just like a tackle box, but all of these plants inside are bits that came off of different floral from Michael's. A lot of this I bought during the spring sale because vibrant colors, tropical island, it's gonna be vibrant. So there's all different things from these were larger plants. I should have kept one but yeah, no, there's plucked off the pieces. So this one is a little flower. That's a nice little pink flower. There are these orangey little puffballs. And hold on, let me turn on this light. There we go. That might be a little better. These orangey little puffballs. They're pretty neat. I ended up putting them on this little piece that came up and had like 3 flowers on it. And I switched them off with the little puffball thingies and got this little thing. And what this is, I don't know, but you know what? It's D&D. You know, it's tabletop RPG. It can be any sort of strange plant, and you know, whatever. They're these little white cluster flowers, which just look like little flowers. I have some small sections of leaves, which can just, you know, put a few of them together and make them look like a bush, or some sort of like a palm bush. There's these interesting little things that are almost sort of like a berry of some kind, and I thought that'd be a neat little terrain piece. There's these. Now these actually have smaller sections on them, and this is actually these little plants are, well, they're part of a larger plant, but I plucked some of these off to use for the beach terrain. So this is actually what I used. But yeah, that's the neat thing about floral. The you know, the paper floral, the silk floral, is you can really get a lot of things out of what you're using for. Now, like this, I have no idea what to use this for because it's huge. But we'll find something. Maybe we'll cut it into strips or something. You know, there's other things we can modify it as. You know, and then there's these big old leaves. Now, once again, I don't know what I'm going to use this for, but you know, it's the jungle. Maybe there's some giant like fern or something. We'll play it by ear. But what they're going to be based on is they're not going to be put on washers. They're going to be put on something that's going to make them look a little bit more bushy. Now, I'm probably going to integrate these with some moss and lichen to create some ground cover for them. But so they're going to be attached to bottle caps. Now, these bottle caps have been primed and base coated in black. That's to kind of hide them when they're underneath all the foliage. That'll be an entire another episode. But for today, we have our washers. You know, it's a 25 pack of washers. I have a few of them. Our Surebonder glue gun. Nice long glue stick. We have our trees, and we have our imagination. So yeah, let's get in. Let's go switch to the table, and let's go over what we're gonna do. All right, so let's switch. All right, so first, I'm gonna open these up, and I'm gonna take 10 of them to the side. Probably some of these small ones are gonna be, because some of these are really small. So I'm probably gonna keep those to the side for the that different base. Maybe some of these ones too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think I'll take another one of those, and we'll take a couple. I'm trying to go for some shorter ones here. All right. Okay, so the rest. So now we have these ones that we're going to save for when we actually do the overland piece, the inland piece. It's always helpful to have some sort of Ziploc bag, something to organize where you or what you have and where you're keeping it. Organization's key. I like to keep some snack bags on hand, some Ziploc snack bags. The reason I like those is because, well, let me think of how to put this. You can fit a lot inside the small ones. You might not think it at first, but like I keep several for different, like, oh, these are my NPCs for the tavern. These are my NPCs for the city. These are my NPC, or these are my player characters for this game. These are my player characters for a different game. These are my pre-generated characters. Things like that. Things that are, should and need to be organized, basically. All right, so looking at this here. All right, so that was one of these. So we have some different ones here, and five. So the coconut palms, the donkey palms, and then these smaller king palms, or larger king palms. So don't have an even amount of each. And then there's these smaller donkey palms. I think these are donkey palms anyway. I think I'm gonna do the smaller donkey palms for the beach, and these larger ones for inland. Now, between the small and the large coconut palms, there's 10, so I'm just going to pick a random amount of both. Okay. And I'm just going to keep these separated. And then, once again, I have these, which is 5, which isn't very helpful to be splitting amongst. I thought I should have one more, but maybe not. So you know what? I think I'm going to have more inland than I would on the beach. You know what? I'm going to switch some of these out, because when you think about it, the ones inland are probably going to grow more than the ones on the beach. So the stunted ones will be the beach, tall ones will be for inland. Okay, but still there's a mixture of each, which is nice. And now we have our other trees. Which are basically all king palms. Well, they're all different sizes. So I'm going to start organizing these. And yeah, I can do it completely random. But honestly, I'd like to... I want to split it up enough that... But when it comes to these ones, anyway, I think I'm definitely going to have more of these be inland than on the beach. And especially, once again, the larger ones. So I should have 6 of each, if I did my counting correctly earlier. Actually, I think there's more smaller ones than there are larger ones. Yeah. I feel like I'm missing one. That's alright, we'll find it later. So, now that we have these figured out, I'm going to grab probably half of the smaller ones, a couple of the medium-sized ones, and all the rest are going to go for inland. Okay, so let's start this off. I'm going to open up all my washers. Now, I probably don't have enough washers, honestly, but a lot of this I'll be doing off camera. So today we're just going to be doing the hot glue. I'm going to show you how to do that part. Okay, so I got the ones with the small holes, by the way, and that's for the weight, really. Now there's two sides. There's a flatter side and a more rounded side. The flat side we want facing down. All right, so let's start with the beach, since that's where we've gone already. So this is easy. We're going to fill in the hole first. Turn it on high, by the way, for this. Just fill in that hole, put a little dollop there, and we are just going to smush that dollop with the tree. Now, you're going to want to have a cutting board like this, or a something that the hot glue is not going to stick to. Parchment works, or a silicone mat. But what we're going to do next is we are going to cover the entirety of the metal that's showing with hot glue. And I'll zoom in on the next one. And then from there, we're going to kind of meet that hot glue to the tree in the middle. And once, we're not going to put a lot there, just a little bit. And then we're going to bring this metal tip of the Surebonder, or whatever glue gun you have, and we're just going to make a little bit of texture. And that texture is going to do a couple things. One, it's going to help the paint to adhere to the hot glue. And two, it's also going to make it look a little more natural. And the one thing is we're going to draw from the middle in, or from the outside in. And what that's going to do is that's going to kind of make it seamless into that tree. And now, we're not going to move it yet. We are going to leave it where it is, and we are going to let it cool. And when it cools, we'll start noticing gaps in the hot glue. And when we get to the gaps in the hot glue, I'll show you how to fill them in. All right, so now that we're a little closer, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to find the flat side and the round side. Put the flat side down. I'm going to take one of these trees now, one of the ones with the pointy side. And I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to fill in that hole, but I'm going to kind of build it up in the middle there. I'm going to let it sit for a second, let it kind of cool to the cutting board. And then I'm just going to stab this into the middle of that hot glue while it's still warm. I'm just going to hold it there for a minute until it starts to cool. Now, I did a big bead of hot glue for a reason. One is that way, as I add more glue to it, it's not going to cool the inside of it, so it'll keep the tree standing up. But now I didn't put enough there for it to make it all the way to the top of that that little spike. So we're going to fill that in a little bit more. And we're going to start bringing it down from that hot glue blob to the base. Now, a lot of times, these won't... It works out in your favor, too. But a lot of times, these won't sit completely straight, the ones without the bases. But honestly, that's not that big of a deal. It's not that terrible of a thing. Because how many palm trees you see out on the beach or out in the... out into the like inland part of an island that are standing up straight. No, most of them are turned or curved into the wind. So now, while that's like that, I'm going to go around the outside and fill in that bit of metal around the outside. And it's okay to use as much hot glue as you need. Because what we're going to end up doing is trimming off any excess if we need to. If there is any absurd amount sticking out over the side, then But what we want to do, the goal here, is to make sure that the metal is completely covered. Um, and part of that reason is because the paint isn't really going to stick to it unless we primed it. And we don't want to prime it because we don't want to get any of that primer on the tree, um, because we're not going to change the color of the tree. We don't need to repaint the tree. It's fine the way it is. So when I'm doing the outside texture of the washer, I'm going from the end of the washer down to the cutting board, and then I'm starting at that point and moving in and up to the tree to make it seem like the tree is like this is all part of the same thing. So like it's actually the tree that's growing out of the ground and not just some stick with a tree on the end. So we're going to let that cool. We're going to go back to the other one that we did. Now, a lot of times I'll do this all at once, and I'll just do a bunch of these and fill up my table. And then this is going to stick. This is secure. Lift up your cutting board, just bend it a little, get underneath it. Another way you can use it is a knife. Now, you can use the sharp side of the knife to just kind of poke underneath. That works. But we don't need to be cutting into the cutting board. If you have a flat razor, those help. But all you need to do is you just need to get into one side. You don't need to go all the way around it. You just need to get one side to get to that middle point. And then once you secure it, or rather, there we go. Once you can get underneath that washer, it's easy to peel up. Now I want to show you this. So this product is a little jagged. It's, if you look at it from the bottom, it's got some pieces hanging off of it, which aren't necessarily ideal. But if we look around it, we can see that all of the metal is full on the side. So I'm just going to take a small pair of scissors, or I mean you can even use your knife, and just kind of trim off the excess pieces and kind of smooth it out. Now, there's another way to do this as well, and that's using the tip of the hot glue gun. So one other thing you can do is take your hot glue gun, take that metal tip, and we're just going to hold it there. We're not going to do anything else. And we're just going to slowly rotate that tree around the metal tip. Just that little bit of an edge. And it's going to melt it a little bit. Just enough to give it a... and you want to keep it moving. You don't want to keep it in the same spot for long. But what it's going to do is it's going to give it a nice rounded edge. And a more seamless edge, and kind of get rid of some of those wispy bits, as well as any I'll just make it more round. Now, one thing that you don't have to worry about is it being perfectly round. It doesn't need to be perfectly round. In fact, if it's not perfectly round, the better. But one thing we're going to check out is to make sure it kind of fits in one of these 1-inch squares. And it does. That's what we're looking for. Round about that 1-inch square. And that is going to be our goal. So that one goes on the finished side, along with this guy. And looking at the finished product, well, actually, I should probably clean this one up a bit. But and like I said, it doesn't. You can always remelt this hot glue. It does not matter how long that hot glue is going to sit for. You can always end up remelting it. So we're going to doctor this one up a little bit, same way we did that last one. And this is what I'll do. This is the process I kind of go through. Is get a bunch onto the cutting board. You want to make sure you put them in a way that you can get them off, mind you. But then once they're all get to that point, you can go back to that first one that you did. That first one will be hardened, and then you can go and doctor up the edges. And then just work your way through. And once all the edges are doctored up and that's all set, you can go through and paint. So now these ones, now that first one I did was a test because this guy I'm talking about, because I wanted to see how much hot glue I needed to add to this. So I ended up having to add quite a bit of hot glue to this one. So this one is a little less. And I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking I'm going to need a little bit more around the trunk. It's a little, looks a little weak for stability-wise. So I'm just going to put a little bit more there. Just a few beads. And then we're going to just smooth them in. Or texture them in, I guess I should say, because it's not really smoothing, is it? Alright, so now that that's done and that part is drying, I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the base, or from the cutting board. You want to be careful. You want to stab in. You don't want to like twist and torque your knife, because you do that, these blades can bust off. And not wearing eye protection, that can be very bad. So I don't even use a whole lot of the blade, just maybe like the first two little sections. And I'm not cutting into my cutting board. That's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to lay the knife as flat as possible and just try to wedge it up from the bottom. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm doing it like this. But once I get it underneath, then I'll make a few jiggles to sort of help tempt it to release. And then once I can get that in there, oh, all right, getting there. You want to be patient with this. You don't want to rush it. Rushing is how you mess up your cutting board. It's how you cut your fingers. Nice. Nice. I'm hoping I can go to the beach this year. At least I live in Georgia right now, so it's the beach isn't that far away, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, so that one's done. Now, that being said, we are going to paint them. Now, a couple things to consider. The glue is clear. You could use a base coat on them. But really what you want to do is, if you're going to do a base color, it's got to be dark, obviously, because this is clear. So it's going to remain opaque a little, or so it's going to remain a little translucent. So you're going to have to do probably about 2 layers. Now, we'll be painting in the next episode. So what I'm thinking what we're going to do is you probably use an espresso to paint the bases for the beaches, or rather for the inland. And then for the beaches, we're probably going to go with a couple layers of this linen, just like we did the beach. So that's where I'm going to start with now. I'm going to do this beach layer. Just a few. And we're not going to water down the paint at all. We're going to keep the paint full consistency. A bigger brush works for this because we have a lot of area to cover. And you don't really have any need to wipe off that brush. I'm going to put it on a piece of paper, so I don't get my cutting board all covered in glue, or paint. Now, one thing about these craft colors that I like compared to the Citadel paints or Army Painter or something like that when painting terrain is that these are nice and thick. Yeah, sure, a lot of times they are a little thinner than others, but you don't have to add as many coats. So we're going to make sure we get around in all the little holes the best we can. Like I said, we're going to let this dry, and we're going to come back with a second layer. So I'm going to sit that off to the side, let it dry. I'm going to go ahead and do one of my other trees. Now, luckily with this one, you can still see some of that brown base through it. So I'm actually not going to add a lot of the sand inwards, this linen color, because I kind of want to see some of that base. I don't want to see it. Kind of break up the monotony a little bit of these sand going right to the tree. So I'm going to keep a little bit of that base for that one. Now, when I end up doing the espresso for the other ones, I'm going to add a little bit to these ones too. And the reason I'm going to do that is kind of paint the bases up a little bit so they're not so clear around where they meet the tree. So these two will get a little bit of the espresso, but for the most part, we're going with the base beige. There. I mean, I like it. I think they're going to look great coming out of the sand. Let's go ahead and just make a bunch more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay these out flat side down. And, you know, it's not that big of a deal if the flat side isn't perfectly down. I don't know. It's just a little easier to glue down that rim of the outside rather than trying to get down the straight side. So I'm going to start working my way across the top, and then work my way, or actually top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. That way I can pluck this one off, then this one, then this one, then this one. You want to be methodical in your order. That way, you want to make your life easier, not harder. That's what it comes down to. Work methodically. Let that cool for a minute. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and make another one. Let that cool for a minute. Same here. You don't want to go too far ahead, but I think 6 will be fine. You can feel a little resistance, and that's probably a good thing, because it'll probably end up being a little more secure. Oh, it's heavy, so I'm going to hold that one in place. Oh, one of them fell down. I'm not too surprised. He was kind of tall. And I'm going to I'm not worried about holding these straight, as I've said before. So, like, they can sway a little bit in the breeze. I actually like how the coconut palms on these have little coconuts. And I think I only have one of these left, so I'm going to go ahead and do one more while that other tree falls. And actually, I'm going to let it lean like that. I'm going to let it lean on the other one, since the other one's pretty secure at this point. And I am in need of another glue stick. Always keep your glue sticks at hand. You will run out faster than you realize. The art of adding glue to your glue gun one-handed. And once I have this one secure, I'll go ahead and I'll start adding the second layer of glue for the base. But I'll show you what I'm going to do. Move these ones to the side. So this guy over here, he's stuck because of that hole in the middle. So that one's going to be easy to move. And he's going to be the first one I work on while I hold this one. Maybe I can get it to stay. You know what? I have an idea. Oh, I do have one more with a base. I'm going to prop him up next to one of these trees. That does have a base. Voila. I'll let that cool for a minute before I add my last one. I'm going to work on this guy. So there's a little bit of space between the bottom and that glue. I'm going to fill that in first. And when I get to that point, I'm going to start bringing some of that down and start blending it in with the metal. Now right now I'm doing this blending. I'm not worried about adding texture necessarily right now. Just kind of giving it a nice slope. And now we're going to fill in that metal. Wisps. And we're gonna start blending in from that, from the edge to the inward. Actually, we're gonna let that cool for another second because it's really hot right now. So while that's going, we're gonna put this guy in here. And this guy froze, must have slipped off a little bit and froze a little sideways. And once again, that's fine. Palm trees grow in all sorts of ways. I mean, I've seen palm trees on that angle before. Not really worried about it. We'll go ahead and work on that one next anyway. So once again, we're going to add enough in to fill in that gap between the glue and the metal, and then between the metal and the cutting board. Any sort of thing like this, when I've made my my tribal banners a long time ago, I've done it the same way. A lot of this, by the way, I'll throw out there, is inspired by the godfather of the craft, tabletop crafting, DM Scotty, over at the DM's Craft on YouTube. I've watched his stuff for so long, and we all make our own little improvements and little things that each of us would do better. And once again, if there's anything you think I can do better, any suggestions to help the channel or to help just make things look a little better, just let me know. Leave down in the comments. It's one thing I like about the tabletop crafting community is it's just that. It's a community. A lot of the stuff isn't just well, this is how I do it, so and I'm not telling anyone else how I do it. I have mentioned a million times how I was a chef for 18 years. And I remember hearing stories from all of my predecessors who would say things about how their predecessors wouldn't tell them how to make a recipe. They would wait till their back was turned before they added in a secret ingredient, a key ingredient. And that was just the way for a while. Like, chefs were always paranoid that people were going to steal their methods of how to do a recipe. And steal it and become a rival. You can't learn that way. Because it's just impossible to learn. There's nothing to learn. So right now I'm just adding texture on here. Now I'm just going to continue on doing this to all of them. Going in order, top, bottom, left to right. Or right to left, rather. And then once we get to this point where we have a cooled and finished product. Now, generally, I would let these rest until the bottom becomes opaque, till the glue is completely dried. But that isn't 100% necessary, especially when trying to get them up off the cutting board. Now, you can let them sit for a few hours. Longer you let them sit, the less chance you have of them tearing, which is always good, of holes forming. This guy's pretty interesting. It's kind of flat, but when he stands up, he'll be like that. And that's not too bad. I'm not worried about it. Were I worried about it, I can fix this. You can manipulate it in a way that you can take a knife, and you can cut into the glue, lift it up more, put more glue there. Could do that. You can just put the tip of your gun over here on this side and around it and just melt the glue and reshape it as you need to. But I'm not, because I like this. I am, however, going to cut some of this edge away because some of this edge is too big. Now, when it's not 100% dry, you got to kind of saw it or go by in a few different passes. It's going to end up with a jagged edge, even with a sharp knife when it's this temperature. But that's all right because we're going to go back over it with the hot glue gun. And we're just going to go around the edge. Doctor that up a little bit. Here. I'll just let it dry a little bit longer and it's ready to paint. Well, guys, thank you for joining me on this episode. And I hope you learned a lot. I hope you had fun. I hope you leave a comment or two. Check out some of my other videos over on YouTube. Also the Lycan DM. And next week we'll get into more painting and making some other things. So yeah. Thank you for coming, and appreciate it. All right. Have a good one, guys. Bye.